I'd like to call the May 19th City of Monmouth Council meeting to order. You'll please rise and join me in the pledge to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can have a roll call for attendance, please.
Alderman Teal?
Yep.
Alderman Bone?
Yep.
Alderman Dahl?
Here.
Alderman Connor?
Here.
Alderman Pinedo?
Here.
Alderman Berry?
Here.
Alderman Van Fleet?
Here.
Roll call complete.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the minutes for our May 5th council meeting. I would entertain a motion for the approval.
So moved.
Second. I have a second. Are there any amendments or corrections to those minutes as presented? Hearing none, a roll call for approval.
Teal?
Yep.
Bone?
Yes.
Dahl?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
Pinedo?
Yes.
Berry?
Pass.
Van Fleet?
Yes.
Thank you. Under presentation or citizens' inquiries, do we have anyone who wishes to address council this evening? Andrea?
Hello, good evening, council. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Andrea Monroe. I'm the Executive Director for MCAP for Economic Development, and I am just here giving you a little update on what we've been doing. So first I want to emphasize our new mission is to be Monmouth and Warren County's go-to economic development resource hub, empowering entrepreneurs, strengthening our local businesses, and building workforce capacity. Everything we're working on ties back to our mission, and we aim to have that throughout the whole region. One of our biggest milestones lately is that we just completed our new strategic plan. This plan lays out our clear path moving forward, focusing on attracting new businesses, supporting existing ones, expanding workforce development, and elevating branding and awareness of our city and region to a place that you should come invest, build, and grow. This plan was shaped with the input of our board members and stakeholders, giving us a strong, unified direction for what comes next. I'm also pleased to share that we've appointed new board members as well. This team brings fresh perspectives, valuable expertise, and shared commitment with a long-term growth for our community. Our energy and leadership is a key as we move forward with planning and putting our planning into action. There's still plenty of work ahead, but we're laying down the groundwork, and I truly appreciate your guys' continued support and look forward to keeping you updated as we keep moving forward.
Council, any questions for Andrew?
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Anyone else wish to address council? Hearing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. We have one item on the consent agenda, that's approval of the bills.
Motion to pay bills. Second.
A motion and a second. Are there any items to be removed for further discussion or consideration? Hearing none, a roll call, please.
Bone?
Yes.
Dahl?
Yes.
Connor?
Yes.
Pinedo?
Yes.
Berry?
Yes.
Van Fleet?
Yes.
Teal?
Yes.
Thank you. Under committee of the whole, the first presentation we have is Vicki Livingston here with us this evening from the Prairie Hills Land Bank, Prairie Hills Resource Conservation District, to talk about the land bank.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I have some handouts if now would be a good time. As Mayor Davey says, I'm Vicki Livingston. You're welcome. From Prairie Hills.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Do you want one? For anyone who's not familiar with Prairie Hills, we've been working in this region of Illinois since 1978. We operate the local land trust, Prairie Land Conservancy, We also run a very successful US EPA brownfield remediation program, small business loans through rural development, and a fairly active fiscal sponsorship agency. Throughout working with our brownfield program, I know we've worked on several projects in Monmouth at this point in time. And we're pleased to announce we got more money from the EPA, so we'll be able to continue that process as well, which is great news for all of us. In that work, we recognize that there are situations where we don't have all the tools that we need to do those projects. Part of that could be remedied by forming a land bank. And so the first document in here is what a land bank actually is. And so this is an intergovernmental agreement where municipalities or county boards can join forces, pool resources and staff time, and start working on problem properties. So they could be properties that have been developed and left abandoned, and maybe they're not up to current building codes, they are no longer on your tax rolls. There could be a lot of different problems with those spaces. And so the land bank works as a repair station. So ultimately, my goal is not to become a real estate mogul. I have zero interest in that. My goal is to fix things. Very much like our brownfield program, the land bank allows us different avenues to be able to take care of vacant or abandoned properties in this region, potentially including Monmouth if you choose to participate, to take those properties and either rehab them or demo them, depending on what they need, and get them back out into private land ownership. And so this is a temporary location for land to metaphorically be held so that we can work on some of the problems that exist and then put it back out into the hands of your taxpayers. In this packet is also a copy of the current draft of the intergovernmental agreement. We are at the point where we have municipalities who are starting to vote on resolutions to join the land bank. We've had one already vote to accept the IGA as written, and we have 2 or 3 additional municipalities who are looking at votes in the next month or so. So I'm here partially because some of your city admin feel that this could be really useful to Monmouth and a natural progression from our brownfield activities. And so if you have any questions specifically that you might like to know more information about, I would be happy to take those.
I think you were starting to work on some grants to facilitate home construction development. Have you moved forward on that? And then I think you're working with a law firm as well to help with legal services.
We are. So we have applied for some additional funding to help with project dollars from the very beginning on our land bank, and those grants have not been announced yet. We currently have access to 2 technical advisors through IDA, so Illinois Housing Authority. They have provided us access to an environmental attorney who is helping us draft all of our language and helping to coordinate things like education with local city attorneys, village attorneys who maybe aren't sure what their building codes actually are or how they can be best enforced. And then we also have technical assistance with a regional planner who can help identify things that would be best for the region on a 6-county scale.
Again, how many counties are involved?
So right now we are actively pursuing 5. We have invited Hancock, McDonough, Warren, Knox, and Fulton. We've invited Henderson, but they have been unresponsive at this time.
Has any of them accepted yet?
County boards have not. They are still deliberating. We are looking at municipalities who have accepted. So we have 1 who has passed a resolution, and we have 2 or 3 additional who will be voting soon.
So what is it you can give us that we can't do ourselves? We have an attorney, we have people that deal with the EPA, things like that. So what's something, because we're going to pay you to do this, what's something you're going to do that we can't do ourselves?
So some of this allows us to share staff resources. So a lot of the municipalities in our area are understaffed. Their staff feel like they don't have enough time to take care of all of their duties. And so this would allow us sort of to split time and split costs of staff. The ultimate goal is to have 2 staff members plus myself to be able to run the land bank. So people who would be chasing down out-of-state landowners, things like property code enforcement, building inspections, those types of things can help add to what the city of Monmouth is already doing.
So what do we do if somebody's got a piece of land that they're interested in fixing it, but they can't do it right at that point in time? You just go in and take it?
Nope. So I can't work on any property that you don't give me permission to work on. And so if a local landowner says, I have this property, but we really like to fix it and we don't have the means to do so ourselves, then we can work with that landowner either to acquire grants, or if there is money available within the city to be able to help them run some of their rehabilitations or to take care of some of their problems. Ultimately, this really opens up the tools that are available and gives you more staff time to be able to do those things.
But how would you go about reducing the number of dilapidated properties through redevelopment or demolition?
So that's a two-part question. So some of that comes down to things like the IDA grants that have been coming out to municipalities as of late. Some in our region have received grant money to be able to do demolitions, but they have a hard time coordinating their demolitions. I'm not speaking of Monmouth specifically. I'm not sure if you were on that list in this last go-round or not. But some of the areas, they are contractor light. They can't find contractors who are able to do the work or maybe are too busy to take on additional projects. If you're looking for contractors who want to be able to do rehabilitations but maybe don't have time to be able to take those on either. And the other side of things is that in other land banks around Illinois and across the country, they've had a lot of success in doing infill of housing on sort of a bulk level. So if I were to approach a contractor and say, I need 5 homes with this number of square feet or this many bedrooms, but I want this footprint and this is the architectural design, you can essentially bulk buy those things. So if you pay your architectural fee one time instead of 5, or line up your contractor to be able to coordinate those building moves, then you can start to infill on property and your bottom line is actually looking a little bit better because you've done all of them at once. And so we can run those coordinations.
And how do you assist with code enforcement?
So that will be up to one of our potential staff members. So we would hire one staffer who does regional code enforcement and building inspection. And so they would work with your current staff to be able to take care of any properties that needed to be done, maybe staff didn't have time to do, or if you weren't sure about particular building codes, then we can help to supplement some of those things. Ultimately, the power still remains with the city of Monmouth. We are just another tool that you can call on when you need help.
All right, so let's take like a typical, like we have a blighted property with an unresponsive property owner, and we're trying to get the thing cleaned up or tore down, whatever avenue we can go through. How would you guys be able to assist on a project like that?
And so some of it, the staff would be able to have time to try to track down landowners or communicate with them in additional means. There are times where people don't want to talk to city administrators, but they'll talk to somebody else. I'm a new face that they've not met before, so they don't know who I'm working for. And so we can reach out to those landowners. And then we would also have some of the availability of state statutes that would allow you to essentially take control as a city if they are not responsive. So if they are maintaining a property that is dangerous, or they are not following codes as they stand, then it gives you additional tools to be able to deal with that space. 2 examples I have from a neighboring county. Our brownfield program worked on one building that had been vacant for about 5 years, trying to track down landowners. They went through a very nasty divorce. Neither one of them wanted to take responsibility for the property. They both moved states. We basically did everything that we could under our power under the brownfield program at the time. The city of 700 people ended up being responsible for the bill when that building fell down by itself at 10 o'clock at night into the street. And they spent about $40,000 cleaning up someone else's mess. Had we had the land bank active at the time, the land bank was about a year too late for this particular property, but had we been active at the time, we maybe could have stopped that building from falling into the road and potentially hurting people. There's another building in the exact same town that has its 5th out-of-state landowner because county tax sales are, for whatever reason, targeted by people who don't live here, who think they want to speculate on land here, and whether that works for them or not is a different story. But in this particular case, it's not working. This gentleman bought a property sight unseen based on pictures from 10 years prior. He bought a 3-story shell that will cost about $150,000 to clean up, and he's ready to walk away again. which means it goes back on the tax sale and ends up with another landowner who doesn't care that their building is shedding stone and potentially going to hurt somebody. So what we would like to do is help with vacant and abandoned properties in our region so that they're not causing injury to citizens, they're not costing you money, they're not costing your county money.
Are we running into that issue right now, Joe?
Well, in some areas with the not being able to track down owners,
But we do eventually, right? We've caught up,
that would
Case
be
in
more,
point.
that'd be more of an attorney question, because he ends up with the paperwork on it.
I mean, basically, you have, I mean, what happens a lot of times is somebody dies. Okay, then we have to track down their heirs, because they didn't have a will, and we have to notify them. And a lot of the demolitions that we are going after today are estates with no personal representative appointed by a court because they died with nothing. Their house is typically in a state of disrepair that it cannot be fixed. That's Joe's call, not my call. Although I drive by them and I concur with a lot of his assessment. If there's a house that I think, I say, God, it doesn't look that bad, he'll show me the pictures of the foundation or whatever. We locate the heir and make one of them the personal representative. We personally serve them. We then publish against in the paper the unknown heirs or the other people that are the heirs, and then we get our demolition order. Typically, that takes a little longer. And then we're a victim of money, right? Money, what anybody else wants to say, it all comes down to money. And, you know, there are a lot of homes that probably need to be demolished. We are limited to our own budgets and constraints on that. So we do have a grant that we are working with that is allowing us to demolish these houses. And they are not cheap to demolish. You know, anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. And if there's asbestos, add on to that. So fortunately, we're getting grant money and it's not costing the taxpayers directly here. Of course, that grant money came from the state. It's coming from taxpayers, but that's where we're at on a lot of those.
when it comes to, basically, it comes, like you said, it comes down to money. So we're getting it taken care of. In the long run, it's getting taken care of. I think my biggest issue, well, I'm looking at some of these numbers too. I actually want to address this first.
Sure.
You talk about monthly, months of supply of residential homes and land. Warren County is the lowest number on there. Does this include Monmouth? Or have you done any statistics on Monmouth? Or is it just
So
Warren
these
County?
figures were run by our technical agent who is doing the regional planning, and these would include Monmouth.
Okay, and then on the other page, you got vacancy rate. We're the lowest vacancy rate also, Warren County is. So if it comes down to money, and we're, Mark's talking about money, we're paying it eventually. I don't see why we need to pay somebody to help us spend more money. That's my outlook.
Well, again, our membership would include some legal services, which we do pay Mark on, but again, his plate gets full. Access to grant funds is probably the biggest thing I can see.
We still have access to those grant funds even without them?
They have a greater access to them than we do.
I can say that
Can you
historically
explain how you have a
speaking,
greater access to the grants than we do?
so historically speaking, the Illinois Housing Development Authority has given more money to the 9 existing land banks in Illinois. They start with the land banks first, and then they go to municipalities, and that is based on need. So at this point, I don't know what they'll do in future, but I can say that historically speaking, they've given a lot more money to the land banks across the state. And I believe some of that information is in your packet as well.
I
About
think
those
it's also
other
important to
existing land
note
banks.
that part of the services would also include trying to recruit home builders to build new homes on the vacant lots that have been cleaned up. I can tell you that we have worked at the staff level, for a number of years, trying to locate home builders that are willing to put up new homes on these infill lots that have been previously cleaned up, but it is so difficult, particularly when we're targeting the south side of town, for a home builder when they're looking at, new home construction, even a modest home, could cost $250,000, and putting them in neighborhoods where the neighboring properties are only $80,000 or $90,000 in value. There would be efforts through the land bank to recruit home builders at a regional level, which would give them multiple development opportunities, and they would avail Monmouth to those types of home builders that might not be willing to come just to Monmouth to build one house, but might be willing to come to Western Illinois to build 5 or 6 homes. So I think there's some real benefit in trying to attract private investment into those properties that have been cleaned up, where the dilapidated buildings have been demolished and rubble has been removed. So something for consideration, I think.
If I may add also, you are not the only one with a housing problem. So across all of the 5 counties that we are talking to, everyone has housing problems. They might be slightly different in terms of need, but the demand is there. And other land banks across the state have had a lot of success in supporting small entrepreneurs who want to become housing building groups, whether it is a private contractor or a consortium of contractors who want to become more widely known in their region to be able to put up housing. And they have seen some success in building the small business infrastructure to support housing demands in their communities. So this is something that is not new to the state of Illinois. They've been well supported up to this point. IDA definitely has money for housing to be able to go up through land bank groups because they like the intergovernmental agreement behind it. They like regional planning and regional development, and so they are willing to put their money where their metaphorical mouth is when it comes to those types of projects.
I could talk for a second about the south end that we was referring to. Obviously, I live there. It is my ward. I think some of the problems we run into with the empty houses down there is nobody wants to build a brand new house next to somebody's house if they don't take care of their property. And that has nothing to do with a land bank's not going to fix us with that. It's not going to help us with that when somebody doesn't take care of their property. And he does his job and what he's supposed to do. And it's hard to get people to clean it up. So we can't get people to take care of their own property. We're not going to get bailed out anyway. I mean, what I think some of the success we've had in that south end of town is people buying lots that own the adjacent property so they can put up a garage or something like that and use it and keep it mowed, things like that. Yeah, it works great. Those land banks or whatever works great when you've got a nice neighborhood with an empty lot so we can put up a new house because the houses around it are nice. And I'm not by any means talking about the site. I live down there.
Sure.
And that's where I live. And I bought most of the property on my block and cleaned it all up, right? I mean, it takes people to do that, and it's hard to do that, and I don't think you're going to attract people from outside to come do that.
So part of the focus of the land bank is to get to a property before it needs demoed. And so if you think about your property on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being really bad, it could fall down tomorrow, 1 being we just built it, we want to target 3s. We want to try to get to those properties before they get so bad that they could blow down tomorrow. The other idea that some land banks around the state have used is programs where, say an individual wants to fix their house, they want to repaint, they need a roof that needs fixed, but they can't afford to do it on their own. Or they can do things like loan programs where after a certain period of time the loan is forgivable. If the individual keeps up with the property, keeps up with maintenance, makes a small monthly payment for a certain period of time, then that loan can be forgivable. So really it's our pool, it's what we decide to do with it, but how can we best serve the residents who live here who maybe need help?
So you do help the current homeowners?
We absolutely can, yeah. And the intergovernmental agreement is structured and edited by anybody who signs on the resolution. And if you choose not to join now, you can join later. We ask for a 3-year commitment at the beginning just for consistency so that we can start getting jobs in the area, work in the community without being concerned that the participation of the city is going to go away. But yeah, we have a lot of tools open to us, and it's really up to us which ones we choose to use where.
Do you have any stats that you can provide to us of people that you have helped?
We are just starting. So personally, we have not done a lot of housing work. I can tell you about the brownfield remediation work that we've been doing since 2018, but the land bank is brand new.
So WIRC does a program, they've done programs within the city where they do like maybe they take a census of an area and determine that, you know, it's blighted or whatever, and they come in and will provide rehab grants. That's done, I mean, I've been here like 24 years and we've probably done 3 or 4 of them over that period of time. And do you guys do something similar to that, or do other land banks do something similar to that?
Some of them certainly do. So a lot of the pull behind a land bank is that you can tailor it to the region you're surveying. I mean, so some areas in more of our urban locations around the state will focus on heirs property and how do you update heirs property and allow those people to fix the residence that they've recently acquired that they didn't know they had, so that they can either sell it or use it themselves. And so it's another option for what the land bank can do.
I think the other part of the legal services, again, staff time is, a lot of times when we get to them, the first floors or the second floors in the basement, or the second floor, the roofs in the basement, and would be nice if we could get to them before they get to that state. And we could get to them where they were at least still salvageable. And again, I think access to the grants and I think access to additional staff time is also critical to that.
So that, I guess the gap I'm seeing is, for all this to work, this requires a proactive approach to go out and find those properties
And we would do that.
and not wait for the neighbors to call in and complain.
So part of this also includes property inventory. So there's a software out there that I'm fond of that I think will do a nice job for this region, where we can keep track of things like current property owners, past property owners. If it is, we can also, I should say, work in commercial and industrial spaces. So I know our conversation has primarily been about housing, but we can work in other brownfield or just built on lots as well. So keeping track of historical land use, for instance. I have access to a lot of Sanborn maps right now. It'd be really nice to expand that into some of our other areas so that we can track historical use for things like lead and asbestos removal, underground storage tanks, and all of the things that our brownfield program currently works on. But property inventory can be really helpful. One of the avenues with that is we can work with Warren County. If Warren County knows they have a bunch of properties coming up on tax sale soon, I can talk with the county board, and we can potentially take those properties into the land bank before they go on to the tax sale to prevent out-of-state land ownership. I'm not sure what the current statistics are in Monmouth, but I know some of our smaller communities have a huge problem with out-of-state landowners who just don't care. And the nice thing, in my opinion, about the land bank is that when I put it out for auction, I can be more particular than the county. I can say you have to be an Illinois resident to participate in this, or you have to live in a state that touches Illinois, or we want Warren County residents to have first access or first dibs on bidding on these properties, where the county can't be quite as selective on who is able to purchase their property. And so it gives you a little bit more control over things when they come back to the tax sale too.
I think really the thing is, you know, whether it's a nice neighborhood or a rundown neighborhood, I think at some level becomes a little irrelevant because the lots are often sized, like in our neighborhood, I believe they're 65 feet wide, 60 or 65 feet wide. If that house goes away, you're not gonna get anybody to build a house on that lot because it's too narrow for a modern house. You know, houses aren't built that shape, so I think the most important thing is to try to save what we got, because once those houses go away for different reasons, it's hard to get a new one built there. Whereas if we had some money or a way to help save these homes, that would really be more beneficial, I would think, at lower cost.
Your lots are 66 by 132. A lot of the lots in town are that size.
That's what I thought. And you really, like, you can't put a ranch single-story house on that lot. You just, once those houses are gone, they're pretty much gone, you know.
Do we have have any more questions for Vicki?
Is the last time we talked about that, like, my question, I may have worded it wrong or whatever, but like my biggest concern is the price tag on it and what's our return on investment. Because that's a term we used several times around this table that night was, this is an investment. So can you talk to us about the return on investment? What does that look like?
Well, the first few months of the land bank getting started is going to be hiring our staff members and putting together that inventory of property. How fast we move will depend on a couple different factors. So it will depend on what the city of Monmouth gives us access to. If you happen to have a property that maybe the city already has under its control and you don't know what to do with, or you don't have the staff capacity to deal with it right now, we can take that property on much faster. So depending on how quickly a property comes into us and what kinds of problems that property has on it, we can move relatively quickly. We are building this in a way that we can move quickly if a municipality asks us to do that. Part of that does come down to those grant funds that I mentioned earlier. IDA is making their grant announcements in June. I'm waiting any time to hear back from the grants that we've already applied for so that we would have project funds right out of the gate. But ultimately, we would be able to work as quickly as funds and the city allow us to do so. Without knowing specific property details, I'm not sure that I can answer your question any more fully than that.
Okay.
I would like to add, we do have a lot of properties that are in repo status to where we can't get hold of an owner because they just walked away from the property. There's probably at least a dozen in town. Some of them are fairly nice houses that either somebody's passed away or they just walked away from the house and walked away from the owners. And that land bank would be able to help them in some situation like that as well.
They walk away from the loan, that becomes the bank's problem then, doesn't it?
Well, they can intercede and say, you know, maybe there was $60,000 debt against it and they walk away from the debt. And we get it, there's a house that can be fixed, put back on the market.
It becomes a business decision of the bank. Some of the banks look at the property and say they're too far under and they're not going to repossess. That's when the problem really arises.
We got one on the corner of East Broadway and North 11th. That big house there, that's just one of them.
If I could add one detail on your commercial and industrial properties, because this is not something we've talked about a whole lot this evening, it does help reduce your risk. It helps reduce your liability for things. And so if it's a property that has known lead or asbestos or other contamination, and it needs to be rehabilitated so that you can get a new business in town, by putting that property into the land bank, it relieves the risk of property on the city. So you're no longer responsible for cleaning up the contamination, which we can help with the brownfield program to be able to do a lot of that. We can run all of the assessments to see exactly what needs to do, and we can find a contractor who is licensed for asbestos abatement, for instance. And so the property can be taken care of without coming under the liability of the city. And then you can have new business be able to move in.
Are we already using the brownfield?
You are for some properties, absolutely. Right now, we can do assessments on commercial and industrial properties, but we don't have brownfield cleanup funds in that specific grant. But the land bank can help assist with other areas too.
I just had one follow-up to Kevin's question there. This page in the back.
Yeah.
So that 25,000, what does that number reflect?
So for that particular county, minus 3 or 4 of the cities who are wanting to participate on their own, that is what their county pay-in would be. So we're asking for a $3 per capita fee from anyone who chooses to participate. So yours would come in at $25,701 on an annual basis for a 3-year commitment. The number at the bottom is if I'm super optimistic and everyone chooses to participate. The land bank budget is being built with an estimated $120,000 of operating expense and staff time. And so anything over that that comes in would be project dollars to be able to do things like the renovations or the demolitions that need to be done.
And where I get back to the
Sure.
follow-up, so that would be the annual cost to the city,
Yes.
and everything you can do is based on if the grants come through.
Not for staff time and administrative things. For things like paying for a demolition, part of what you're going to get is access to the grant writing and those IDA grants that tend to favor land banks. So this pays for things like staff time. Additional project dollars will be hopefully grant funded, and we'll find out about that soon. As of right now, everybody who is thinking about participating or has already signed on is covering the estimated admin costs. I have enough municipalities who are interested in doing this that our admin and those 2 staff positions would be paid for on an annual basis. So at this point, we're looking at some additional funds coming in too. I know it's a big ask. If you ever have other questions about it, Mayor Davies has my contact information, as does Lou and Joe. We've been working on several projects together, so feel free to reach out, email, call my office. I would like the lines of communication to stay open, even if you choose not to participate at this time.
Thank you for the information. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will give you my last one.
Next item on our agenda is approval of the recodification of the current code of ordinances. Melissa, I'm gonna ask you, I think this was your project.
It is. Our code has not been updated since 2009, so I asked in our budget that we could get a recodification done, which will bring our whole code up to date. It was, like I said, budgeted for, so the money's already there, just need approval to get the ball rolling. Any questions?
What was the cost of that?
It's in here, and I did not bring my packet. The cost of the codification.
Wasn't it 16?
$16,652 is the estimated cost.
And we did budget for that, right, Lou?
Yes.
And it's time to kind of get it updated, what you say, Mark?
Yes. I mean, essentially, all the ordinances that you pass, stop signs, all that kind of stuff, needs to be in one book. It would be nice. It would be nice to be done annually. It's too expensive to do that. I think we've done it 2 other times, I think right when I first started and then in '09, and it just hasn't been done.
So basically, if we pass an ordinance, then it's nowhere except
It's in the back
the ordinance book.
until, Sterling used to do it, but it's basically not added to the whole codification process.
And as I was browsing over this, is this then something that's available online for people? Is that?
They'll publish it online too. It is,
It's
our code
online.
of ordinances are online right now, so.
But probably more difficult to find because of all the names.
Actually, it's searchable. There's a keyword search, so. It's not terrible. It's not the best I've seen, but it's not terrible.
So I entertain a motion for approval of the recodification of our current code of ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, a roll call, please.
Dawn,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
Pineda,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Van Vliet,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Bone.
Yes.
Thank you. Lou, I think we have something on the Main Street Reconstruction Streetscaping Engineering Services Agreement.
Yes, thank you. Well, you know that it was just recently announced that the city received a $1.5 million RISE implementation grant to extend the downtown streetscape project from the public square and the 100 blocks of north-south Main and east-west Broadway. The additional $1.5 million is to now extend that streetscape into the 200 block of North Main and South Main. The funds the grant does require a $500,000 grant, and we're prepared so that we can be ready for construction next summer to engage the services of Hutchison Engineering, who was the engineer for the public square project, and they also were the ones that prepared the grant application on the city's behalf. The cost of that program for engineering, this would include preliminary engineering, final engineering, preparation of the bid specs, going through the bidding process and the award of the construction contract, as well as construction inspection during the construction phase, $240,000. That is part of the $2 million budget for the project, and I would recommend council's approval so we can proceed and begin preliminary engineering.
This is gonna cut it down like around the 100 blocks, so it'll be
It'll
one
be
lane.
It'll be one lane and diagonal parking, as well as the continuation of the street lamps and landscaping. I think is going to be probably particularly beneficial to the 200 block of South Main.
Any questions for Lou?
No, I think that diagonal parking really will help bring more people downtown. People hate parallel park.
And slow traffic.
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion for approval of the engineering agreement.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Connor,
Yes.
Pineda,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Van Fleet,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Bone,
Yes.
Goff.
Yes. Thank you. Next, we have intergovernmental agreement with Monmouth Roseville School District for the school resource officer, Lou.
Yeah, there's been some information distributed previously in the weekly administrative report about discussions between the school district and the city regarding the creation of a school resource officer. We did reach a tentative understanding on an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the school. The school district board did approve the agreement last Tuesday. The agreement basically creates a school resource officer's position. It will be a police officer appointed by the chief to serve certain functions within the school environment with the students. The school district would pay 75% of the total compensation of the officer for 9 out of 12 months, including salary, health insurance, retirement, and those types of costs. That a percentage, 75% would be adjusted annually, depending on the actual hours worked. If it fluctuates to, say, 73% the first year or 78% the first year, then that percentage will adjust for the second year of the contract. So it's kind of an active and live percentage based on actual hours worked annually by the police officer. As I mentioned, it's been approved by the school district. The officer, while assigned to the school, will still be considered an employee of the city and will be supervised by the chief. So I would, again, recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Pineda,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Van Fleet,
Yes.
Teal.
Yep.
Bone,
Yes.
Goff,
Yes.
Connor.
Yes.
Thank you. Casey, next, I think we have approval to hire electrical contractor to power the new LED sign at Station 1.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. If you recall a few meetings ago, I presented you with several proposals to install a new LED sign out in front of the Station 1 using grant funds to do so. And that sign has since been ordered, but now we need to run power out to it and hire a contractor to do that. So I've submitted a couple of proposals that were given to me to run 2 power lines out to the sign from inside the fire station. They're going to use an existing service panel and run a wire outside of the building out to the sign in front of the building. So this will also be covered with grant funds. We will be paying only 5% of what is approved.
So you had 2 bids, and the low bid was,
$3,485.
okay, and from C&D Electrical.
That's correct. Any questions?
I would entertain a motion for approval of the low bid.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Any questions? Discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Barry,
Yes.
Van Vliet,
Yes.
Teal,
Yes.
Bone,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Connor,
Yes.
Benado.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, while you're up there, Casey, do you want to give your April report for the fire department?
Thank you. For the month of April, we had 139 calls for service, and that's 543 calls so far this year. Just a few of the highlights of our training for the month. We were invited by Americold to visit their facility. We do that once a year, as we do with Smithfield, and go out and just take a tour and point out any hazard or places where that could be considered a hazard or something like that to any new firefighters or people just maybe haven't seen it for a while. So, very good training. Just be familiar with the facility out there. Paul Mangieri completed the confined space operations training at the Illinois Fire Service Institute. Captain Tyler Osborne completed company fire officer training, and that was held in Moline. So he took advantage of that class up there. The fire department held an informational meeting. I think I might have mentioned this to you before. This is an informational meeting for people who are applying to the fire department. We did that on a Saturday to allow people that work during the week to come and visit the department. And what we did was we just had a meeting with everybody, kind of described the fire department to everybody, and walked them through the whole testing process, went over the application with them. And then after that, we all went outside where we had the actual physical agility test all set up that will be there on test day, and give them the opportunity to go through that if they wanted to, or at least see it so they can get an idea of what it's like. So we're trying to help these new applicants succeed and to bolster our list a little bit. So we have a nice list for 2 years. We'll be able to hire people off of if we need to. Aside from that, like I said earlier, the LED sign has been ordered, and an update on the fire safety trailer also was purchased with that grant. They contacted me here recently and asked about putting the graphics on the side of the trailer, so that tells me that they're getting a little closer on that project. So hopefully they've been a little ahead of schedule. So, anybody have any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Casey. Next, we have the police department April report, Chief Schweitzer.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. For the month of April, we made 80 arrests. We issued 86 citations. Phone calls that came into the dispatch center was 3,546. MPD handled 1,457 calls. The dispatch center total handled 2,803 calls. Monmouth Police Department handled 18 accidents, and the officers worked 18 grant hours. Incidents of note, officers spent approximately 14 hours in court for various criminal and traffic cases. I met with the new emergency management director for OSF, Holy Family Medical Center, and a threat assessment was completed at Central Intermediate. Under staff training, officers completed state mandated training. We also, part of that, July 1 of this year, police officers are required to have so many hours of scenario-based training completed, and in order to get that done, we had to get everybody through 6 hours of high-risk traffic stop training, scenario-based. That's what we did last month. All the officers are in compliance with our state mandated requirements, and next year the officers will have to start self-reporting to the Training Standards Board on their compliance with their training mandates. Equipment-related issues, several squad cars were taken in for routine maintenance. And looking forward, we'll be preparing for the 4th of July, the car show, and the Warren County Prime Beef Festival Parade and Festival. Other than that, if there's any questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next up, we have acceptance of bids for lawnmower purchase. Brady?
Mayor and Council, I've got in front of you a couple bids that we got for the replacement of 8 lawnmowers for the Public Works Department. These lawnmowers would replace existing mowers. Not all of them. We have 12 currently, so this would replace about 2/3 of them. This would replace mowers at our wastewater, water, street department, and cemetery for use there. I collected these quotes. It was a budgeted expense, but the mowers we've got are out of warranty and are beginning to have large repair costs, and they're just getting worn down. They've got thousands of hours on them, and it's time to replace them. The 2 bids I collected came in under budget. The one bid I collected from Heritage Tractor here locally, and that came in at $64,750. The other bid I collected was the low bidder, and that is from Sinclair Tractor at $57,500. My recommendation is to purchase these lawnmowers, but I kind of wanted to leave it up to council for a decision on where to buy them from. One of the bids I collected was a local contractor and came in higher, and the non-local bid was the low bid by about 12%. So I wanted to leave it to council on that decision.
Well, that's a big difference for identical equipment.
And I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
Yeah, so some of these mowers we're getting rid of are 23s and their warranty's up already?
Yes.
And they're
yes.
only giving us $1,000 for them?
Yeah, they go through.
I'm sorry, I mean payoff. That's
No,
the
no.
payoff? We owe $1,000 on them still?
No, they're all paid off.
Okay.
So-
And that's how it kind of read weird. So they're only giving us $1,000.
Yes. So a lot of these, the places that they're used on some of the steep banks out there, and they just get beat up. To be honest with you, they get used well.
Well, I know mowers get beat up.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
My kid worked out there one summer and they were constantly tearing up that equipment. I mean, it's just crazy the abuse it takes from that cemetery in the lake. I was shocked. I'm with you. I mean, I understand that doesn't seem like much, but I know those things are wore out. They're done.
And we have traditionally replaced every 2 years. I mean, this isn't the first time we've done it.
And quite a few of these mowers, just from inheriting everything from Andy Jackson, he did everything in his power to stretch the life on them. I know some of them are newer, but I believe one on there is 10 years old.
Yes, 20 down, 16.
Yeah, so they're, I believe previous to me and going forward, we try and take as much life out of them as we can before we
I have
trade
one
them
more
off.
question. Why do we stick with John Deere? I mean, why don't we go, there's a lot of companies out there that make really good stuff that stands up just to John Deere. I mean, it's just as good.
Yeah, and I asked that question at first as well when I spoke with the guys about this. And the response I got was, we've tried other brands in the past, and they just did not hold up as well as the John Deere's.
Any other questions? Do I have a recommendation for purchase of, trading in and purchase of the new fleet?
Local, is that Monmouth? Not local, where's that at?
So local is here in Monmouth at Heritage Tractor. Not local is Sinclair Tractor, and that's actually from Muscatine. That is the closest John Deere dealer that is non-Heritage.
And you said the Heritage bid even at, what was it, 64,000?
64,750. Yes.
It's still under budget.
Correct. Yep. Because our budget was 65,000.
You'll know the number quicker, so I don't have to look. How much did they beat our local place by?
Approximately $7,000.
Did you talk to our local place and say,
Yeah.
hey, I'd like to keep it local?
No, I did not.
It would be inappropriate for us to go back to the high bid.
Why is that?
Was that a sealed bid?
It,
But then, That was the same.
Well, I mean, yeah,
I get it.
we can if you want us to, but
I mean,
typically, that's why we get bid prices.
We don't peddle bids around.
Yeah,
Yeah, if they both rebid it, then they both know what they did before, so
it's a big difference.
that's a huge difference. I'm shocked that, especially for something that's just a pass-through, they order it and it comes in and it gets picked up. Wow.
Will they be repaired locally though? or
Yeah, so all warranties are applicable to any John Deere dealer. So that warranty work will be done, if there is any, here locally. Most of the service work we do in-house, like changing oil or,
Okay.
belts, blades, things like that, so. All right.
Council have a motion?
Motion to accept the low bid.
Yeah, I hate to do it, but yeah, second. That's a big difference. That's not $20.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Van Fleet.
Yep.
Teal.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Connor.
Yes.
Pineda.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Thank you, Braden. Next, we have the acceptance of the bid for West Harlem roadway Phase 1, which is from South Main to G Street. Or, excuse me, North Main to G Street.
Yep, correct. So that bid went out. It was opened up on April 25th by the state. The low bid on that one came out to $2.8 million, 2.85, excuse me. And the low bid was from Brandt Construction. We received 3 bids for that one, with Brandt being the lowest. And they were actually the only bid that came in within our engineering estimate. So Brandt Construction was $2.85 million. And the next lowest was Lavadier at $3.54 million. So I had a letter written up from IMEG, who has been a part of the design on this project, and my recommendation, as well as IMEG's, would be to accept the low bid for $2,855,000, $657.95.
Boy, that's way under their cost estimate, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like they're being very aggressive on this construction project.
Make
So.
the motion to accept the low bid from Brandon.
I heard a second? Okay, a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Teal.
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Connor.
Yes.
Pineda.
Yes.
Barry.
Yep.
Van Fleet.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Next, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for Illinois statute to consider collective bargaining.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Vaughn.
Yes.
Dahl.
Yes.
Connor.
Yeah.
Pineda.
Yes.
Barry.
Yes.
Van Fleet.
Yes.
Teal.
Yes.